and what we're going to cover today is on the it's the XPAY architecture as well as the configuration file. So what we're going to do is first have a quick look at the architecture, that how XPAY gets deployed in your infrastructure within the bank or the telco or the provider, and then after that we are actually going to look into the various configurations that are needed. In the previous demos, or demo videos, we have already covered on the XPay services as well as XPay bridge and the merchant management in terms of what the merchant can log in, and also like the whole flow is there. So let me quickly cover up what is there in terms of the 3-tier architecture and then zoom into the configuration part. So the firewalls, that means the 3 tiers are already there, and then XPay web is the one which is basically connecting to the outside elements. So the first will be the XPay merchant system. So let's say if it's a commerce portal or a mobile mobile commerce enabling, or a bulk payment, or a corporate enterprise that wants to do payments. So they are the merchants who are going to come in. So merchants basically gets web services, SOAP WSDLs, and then also they get a dashboard which they can access, and along with that we also expose the so-called web redirection or the mobile payment SDK connector from the other side. That means that it's coming from the user's machine or the mobile payment option, and then it goes all the way into the web, so-called XPay web. Now at XPay web, it will connect to the XPay app, which is basically the first module of XPay web is XPay services, and then at XPay web there is XPay services, bridge, and XPay manager. Now XPay services is the one which entertains XPay web. Bridge is the component that connects with all the other third parties. So meaning that if I have core banking or switch, or if I have the FTP, or if I have the authentication platform XCM over here, and then we have the XPay manager. XPay manager is the one that is responsible for all the administration part. So that means that the operator or the administrator will log into the dashboard. It's a web-based dashboard, and then you can manipulate everything from the merchant management to users to transactions, and all the other aspects. And there is also a bridge dashboard which is also used for the user importing, or in terms of FTP connectivity. And then it also syncs up with the XCM Protect platform. XCM Protect platform is the one which talks to the outside party. So it will talk to the email and SMS gateway. So if there's any message which needs to be sent out from the XPay web or XPay app, they actually use XCM Protect for communicating it outside. And more importantly, the role of XCM Protect is in terms of second factor authentication. Now in XPay by default we are giving multi-factor authentication. In the multi-factor, the first most important factor is the one-time passwords which are coming from XCM Protect. In addition to that, you can also use other features like geofencing or tokenization, or device profiling and risk-based authentication, or digital signing, or out-of-band authentication in conjunction with the the XPay workflow. Yeah. So this was very quickly explaining that how XPay web, XPay app, or the bridge works in conjunction with the core system or the authentication system. And all the data is essentially stored in the tier 3, which is where the core or the Oracle database will be. You can have Oracle database or MySQL database, enterprise edition, or cluster, or community if we are doing a UAT setup, and that's where all the data gets synced up. So in a way, this quickly covers the 3-tier architecture of how XPay gets deployed. And now let's go into the details of the configuration. So the first configuration is on the XPay website, which is where we'll show you how on the XPay services connector, and also the handler configuration for merchant synchronization. Yeah, so let me get started with that, and then we'll go to the XPay app configuration. So what I have done is I have already logged into my server. So I am okay. I think I'm in the other folder. I should have been in the XPAY web. Yeah, okay. So in XPAY web, what you will see is that there is a folder called XPAY settings. Now inside this settings is the few important files that we have. Now the subject and template, these two files we don't need to worry about. They are more for the settings or the configuration in terms of sending messages out. Mulatech.jks is the one which is used for the HTTPS connection at the Tomcat level, and then the handler, and then the XPAY service connector. So if I open up XPAY service connector, what I'll see is basically the count and the time frame, and also the WSDL, the 3 WSDLs that I need. Please don't edit anything over here. All you have to do is just edit the part which is like how many servers or clusters do you have. So if you are having a deployment of HA, that means 2 XPAY app, then you can put 2 or 5. Over here, for simplicity, what we have done is that we have put 5, and we are actually pointing it to the same XPAY services which is running at port number 2443. So what it means is that internally XPAY web will make basically 5 connections with XPAY services WSDL, and then it will be basically using it under round robin, so which is under the HA in configuration. Logging, yes, that means it should log, and then also security, yes. Security, yes, or secured, yes, means it is a HTTPS setup. Interval dot so the repeat interval is 120 seconds. What it means is that after every 120 seconds, XPAY web, the connector, basically, which is the HA cluster connector, that will check if the service is up or down. So obviously you can reduce it to, let's say, 60 seconds or 10 seconds, but we have kept it optimal of 120 seconds where the service is up or down. So if it is down, it will be ignored. That means that particular IP will be ignored for sending request. If it is up, then the request will be entertained in a round robin format. Yeah. Okay, so that was the first file, and it's quite straightforward. That's all you need to configure, just the IP and the port and the frequency, the number, the count. And the second one is what we call it as handler. Now what it means is that when you publish any new, that means, let's say over here, if I am publishing, so that means from XPAY manager over here, I will be publishing a new merchant. So let's say Reebok. So when Reebok is published, I need to inform XPAY web to actually deploy a new virtual directory or a WAR file. So to do that, and to replicate it, that means because I can have 5 or 10 merchants or 20 merchants, I need to replicate that binary. So that binary is where the handler comes into picture. So what handler tells is that it actually tells that this is the file, the binary file, which needs to be replicated and where it is present. Yeah. And that's about it. So all you have to do is just configure this, which is pre-configured. Only thing is you might need to change the path over here for configuration, and then once you do that and your server restarts, then automatically it will pick it up. Yeah. And over there 2 is what it means is that after every 2 minutes it will go and check whether there are any new merchants added, or whether there are any merchants that are being suspended or removed. So that means after every 2 minutes, XPAY web a module, which is a scheduler, will go and check with XPAY app, right, to see if there are any new new or old. That means basically any change in the merchants that has happened. Based on that, we need to reflect. Yeah. So if anything is added, then this will be replicated. If anything is removed, then it will be removed from there. If any merchant is removed, it will be removed from there. Yeah. Okay. So quite straightforward. Now let's go towards the other part, which is basically the XPAY app. Now, as I mentioned to you, XPAY app actually constitutes of the service, and then we have the bridge, and then we have the manager. So there are these 3 components that are present in XPAY app. Yeah. So okay, now let's quickly look into the database part. So when we talk about database, okay, let me just go to the directory over here. Now for simplicity, what we have done is we have deployed everything on a single server as a single server setup. but it can also be a two server or a 3 server setup based on what module you deploy. Yeah, so I'm going to go into the XPay setting. Yeah, and in the XPay, oops, sorry, this one, right, in CD XPay services. Sorry. Okay, so first thing I need to do is I need to check on the, yeah, so there's a file called db setting. In this I will have the first entry, which is what I call it as the database connection. So meaning that the IP, the port, the database name, the username, password to connect to it, and also the type. So type is basically MySQL or Oracle or DB2, any Java based or Java compliant database. And then what we are doing is that we take this information, which is encrypted. So when the system starts running, it will decrypt it and use it, and that will be used for connecting to the database. The other part is where you have the bank account. So now in XPay there are configurations where which account the merchant or the user should pay. So these are the two accounts, which is in Khmer and also in US dollar. Yeah, and then a little bit about the reporting part at T24. That is again very specific for this particular deployment. And then you have other settings. You don't need to change anything. Everything remains the same. Only thing I would like to highlight over here is that the xpay.mask.enable equals to yes. It means that the system will not show the full account number or card number. It will only show masked value, which it means is that it will replace from a 12-digit account number, about 6 or 7 of them will be replaced with X or asterisk, and then the other only last 4 digits will be made visible. So first 2, then all 6 or 8 digits as X asterisk, and then after that 2 or 3 digits, so that by looking at it you can figure out what number it is. So that is something which hides away any kind of vulnerability. And then also in terms of settlement, so when you want to do settlement, then what is the tag that should be used? So again, it's very specific for this thing, so we don't recommend you to change anything. If there is any queries, then you can actually ask us what should be the value. Yeah, rest all these values are reserved and fixed for the system to work. So we'll I think we'll close this part. One thing I would like to mention is that the license path. So whenever you deploy XPay, you will need a license. So license is given by the company, and once you import the license, then you just put the entry over here where it is, and then after that the system, once it restarts, it knows how many merchants to cater for, what should be the evaluation duration, or it's a perpetual license, and how many billing options or payment options that are being enabled. So many other factors which are controlled by licensing is put over there. Then so that was on the first part, which is the connection with the database. Now XPay service itself talks to bridge. So let's look at the settings for that. So the file is sorry, I think the file will be in the bridge, yeah, setting. Yeah, XPay bridge connector. Now okay, it's a HA enabled setup where you can have this is the port and IP where the bridge is running. So XPay service will connect to bridge for these 5 different IPs, or HA configured setup. And again, the duration of the difference is 20, logging is marked as no, and secured is marked as yes. That means it's HTTPS enabled bridge services that will be used by XPay service. So if XPay service is deployed on a different server than bridge, then you will have to change that correctly. Okay, it's as simple as that. So so XPay service uses the database, XPay service uses bridge. So those two settings we have seen. Now XPay bridge talking to the XIM server, which is the authentication server, and XPay bridge talking to the core system, that means the core switch. So which is quite straightforward from here. So as you would see, there's a file called bridge external connector. So the first setting is for T24, which is the core system, core switch or core banking, and then we have the XIM connector, which is also coming from or it's basically HA enabled, and all the details are over here. So if you see, it's again telling the cluster, then the interval, and also the WSDL path, and then also logging enabled, true, false, and all the list of IPs, and then something same goes with the XCM also. So these are the three details which the XCM needs. So if some other authentication service used, they might have their own settings, but in XCM, in case of XCM, these are three values which will be given to you from XCM system, and you can input that based on the channel that they have created. Yeah. Okay, now let's look at few other settings that are relevant. There's a setting called bridge setting. So in bridge setting, you would see, again, bridge talks to the database, so all the entries are over here, and then the one below over here, there is no need to change. It remains the same, and then again, only important thing you need to look at is the card number, that is the card length, whether it's 16 or 12 or 14, you can set it up. And then you can also say whether you want to mask, as I explained earlier, whether yes or not. Then transaction limit, whether it needs to be enforced or not. And then the FTP scheduler, whether it should run or not. This is basically for the exchange rate, to talk and figure out what is the exchange rate, and then apply that exchange rate when the transaction happens. Yeah. So another flag is real-time registration equals to yes, so meaning that you are saying that the users will be able to register real-time with the system instead of doing a manual upload and then operator and allowing them. So in the real-time registration, the user can actually identify themselves with providing their date of birth, phone number, and their account number, and then using one-time password, we validate whether they are the right user and then activate them to use the XPAY system. Yeah. So these are the few settings. Again, we highly suggest you to get us involved if you want to change them, because this will change the behavior of the system completely. So we request you to talk to us before you make any changes. Yeah. Then coming out of this file, okay, so I think this one we can skip. This is the document tracker. Again, it's an internal thing. Then again, subject and template is kept the same. That means they're used for sending the information out. So I think it's quite straightforward in terms of how we look at the settings part. So this is the way the license file is. Again, the JKS file is the key store file used for it. Then upload is whatever temporary file gets uploaded. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So there is a module called enforce, which is coming from the XPAY web to this thing. So that module again uses this file, which should be replica of this thing, and it just talks to the database. So again, that module is present with the bridge, and that also talks to it. It can be deployed separately, that's why we have kept a separate configuration. But again, this is the only entry that needs to change. Yeah. So with that, I just want to quickly revise that 3-tier architecture. Web talks to the service using a HA connector, which builds the performance very well. XPAY Web entertains the merchant or the users coming from the outside through the internet. XPAY app has bridge, manager, and service. Bridge talks to all the other components, and manager is the one which is used for the dashboard. We have already done the video, so you can check them out. And then we have the services, which essentially talks to bridge and database. And then bridge talks to the authentication platform, and bridge also talks to the co-banking, and also it has a scheduler for SFTP for pulling the users from the source, and also it can pull the exchange rate in terms of web services or in terms of the exchange rate which is published over a SFTP. Yeah. And then obviously the database, which is the core of everything. And then we have the XCM Protect, which is basically the second factor platform, where we have the out-of-band token, SMS token, hardware token coming in, plus the other forms also, like a multi-factor platform. And XCM is also responsible for talking outside as email gateway as well as SMS gateway to the outside world. So let's say for sending alerts or sending messages or sending OTP, this is being used. Yeah. So with that, I would like to say thank you so much, and please do let us know if anything is not clear. Sumit and myself will be more than happy to help you out. Yeah, thank you.